As Dave said, I'm the CPO of Mento. I'm here today to talk about on-chain FX and what that really means and how we can rebuild the global FX layer using stablecoin rails. I was told I was only given 8 minutes, so I'm going to go relatively fast and keep this high level. So if anyone wants to get into the details, come find me after. So I want to start with like a real user problem. Imagine you're an Argentine freelancer being paid in USDT, USDC, or whatever your favorite, PYUSD as someone mentioned, whatever your favorite stablecoin of choice is. To actually get utility and spend that money that you earn in real world, you have to go through a bunch of hoops and steps. You have to off-ramp it, you have to transfer it to your bank, and either get that in fiat or in your digital wallet like Mercado Pago. This whole process kind of like incurs about 3 to 5% in fees, takes T+1 or T+3 days to settle into fiat. So you're left with time waiting to actually get your cash to spend. In addition to that, you have additional FX spreads from the bank or from any of the money transmission operators. So just want to ground that. I'm going to go a lot faster. So the FX market, largest markets in the world, the NASDAQ is only 500 billion daily. If you look at this right over here, the FX markets is 7.5 trillion annually. Now, if you annualize that, that's about quadrillions of dollars, some unfathomable number. However, if you look at the dollar, it's had its worst performance in years relative to the other global currencies. Yet, if you look at stablecoins in circulation, 99% plus of stablecoins are denominated in USD. Now, that creates an interesting dichotomy in how we actually build FX globally. Like I said, 7.5 trillion annually. If you look at FX markets, it's 100% taker market. Retail users like us, people like us, everyday use cases, you're subject to kind of the institutional pricing. You're just taking the rates that you get, oftentimes at very unfavorable spreads. And because of the dynamic of USD dominance, only 0.01% or mere basis points of that is actually happening on chain today. Everyone's talking about it, everyone's trying to build on it, but it's still really, really early if you think about it. Now, if you look at FX and some of the shortcomings for everyday users, why it fails, I talked about access. Everyday users, small businesses, developers, can't plug into this network unless you plug into the intricate interbank network that you have with a bunch of these large banks that everyone talks about us trying to replace. There's fragmentation, there's different entities every step of the way that take their cut, and then there's currency mismatch. The end users, like folks in Argentina, have to hold the bag and deal with currency exposure, especially with high inflation currencies. That's a real issue, right? So, what do I mean when I say on-chain FX? I think this term is thrown around a lot these days. What I really mean is a programmable FX layer where you have local currency pegged stablecoins, not just USDC, USDT, beyond the dollar dominance that we talk about, transparent on-chain pricing, so price finding that actually happens that's brought on-chain, because if you don't have the price of the currency that you're swapping, for example, the Argentine peso is about plus or minus 1,500 to 1 USD. If you're actually having to pay 1,800, then you're subject to kind of these spreads and slippages that we've been talking about. And then the composability element, being able to hook into kind of this FX layer on a smart contract programmable basis. Now, what this all means is you can get instant quote, trade, settlement, all in a single transaction on chain and leverage all the utility and benefits of being on chain. So in the FX landscape today, I'll start on the bottom right over here. These are stablecoin issuers. You know a lot of them. You have Circle, Tether, whatever. With these, you can get access to the currency that they're pegged to. So the yen, for example, the Sing dollar, so on and so forth. But they lack the infrastructure needed to transact with each other, because if you think about it, blockchains are kind of dumb unless you give it the data that it needs. On the top left here, there's all these talks about chains that I will not name, or purpose-built chains that are like payments or FX chains. What they really rely on to facilitate these transactions I talked about on the bottom right is RFQ and off-chain liquidity. I think liquidity is something we all talk about a lot. For them to actually make and facilitate the transactions, they have to leverage kind of these TradFi rails, market makers, OTC desks to facilitate these transactions. And then we have Mento, which I haven't really talked about much yet. But what we're really building is this neutral FX layer for you to be able to swap stablecoins at the given FX rate. So, talking about swapping, we're all familiar with the AMM model. I'm going to go really fast here. I have a minute left. So if you look at the I was going to pull up Argentine peso, but there's like no liquidity on chain for Argentine peso. So I used the Brazilian real. The rate there is about 5.3. If you try to do a transaction on chain with BRZ, one of the most liquid Brazilian real stablecoins, if you even try to swap $10,000, the number is really small there on the bottom, but you see a slippage of about 30%. So you'll actually lose 30% of your dollar value if you do this swap on chain today. The reason for this is because AMMs rely on price finding on chain. You need really, really deep liquidity for you to be able to swap, and thus it's really capital inefficient. I'm going to zoom through this really quick. So what is Mento? We have 15 local currency pegged stablecoins. We have this pricing mechanism called FPMMs, fixed price market makers, which leverage Oracle-based price finding or prices that we bring on chain, so that you can actually swap any of the stablecoins supported on the platform at the real rate. We power Opera MiniPay, which has 10 million users in 60 countries. We did about 20 billion annually, integrations with all on-chain protocols. I want to touch on this really quickly. If you're a stablecoin issuer, not only with Mento stablecoins, you can actually plug into our infrastructure and leverage the pricing model. And the value here is if you're a Argentine peso stablecoin issuer and you want to be able to swap for reals, dollars, or what have you, you can't really do that on chain at an efficient model without having to have millions of dollars of liquidity to actually get the price. We offer real-world pricing, swaps. Size of the prize, I mean, we talked about 7.5 billion. Even if we bring 1% of that on chain, that's about $2.7 trillion of swap volume annually. Even if you get 5%, that's 12 trillion annually if you look at that. So just to wrap up, it's not a winner-take-all space. We're looking to build the FX layer for on-chain FX. If you're a fintech or super app that want to build stablecoin flows into your app for your users, issuers, I just talked about that. And then protocols, DeFi protocols like AMMs can also leverage us to get better price finding. Borrow lend protocols so that you can create loans, and then obviously traders and LPs. Cool. That's it. Super quick talk. If you're interested in FX and stablecoins, you can find our socials here, website, or just find me and we can chat. Thanks, everyone.